But then once you actually get the messages, you realize how complicit Taylor Swift was in all of this. We're definitely seeing that Blake Lively, I mean, as Angie Giannetti described her, a terrorist. We're definitely seeing that she was a terrorist, and she had so much control over the set of this film. And you can see, like, we heard that, like, she was using Taylor Swift's influence, right? Like her association to Taylor Swift and Ryan Reynolds, we heard that, like, she called them her dragons. But not only did she call them her dragons, but, like, Taylor Swift seems complicit in helping her hijack this movie. We also have Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Jennifer Lopez, Anna Wintour, all of these people that Blake Lively was influencing and poisoning against Justin Baldoni. And then we see the text messages with Brandon Sklenar and Jenny Slate, where it appears she's, like, kind of grooming them and manipulating them. And you see the text messages, like, to Brandon of, like, remember at Roots when he said that thing, that really creepy thing? Like, do you remember what he said? Like, you remember what he said? Or, like, Jenny,
planting
remember you were,
yes.
Jenny, you remember you were upset about the Airbnb, right? Like, it was, oh my God, like, you remember it was, like, really uncomfortable what Jamie said to you, right? It's just, like, it's so crazy how manipulative she was to everybody around her.
I know. And something that I was reminding someone of earlier is that interview that she did years ago where she talked about how when she started first working on the set of Gossip Girl, she immediately took a disliking to Penn Badgley, which is interesting because they ended up falling in love. You kind of makes you wonder what's going on with her and Baldoni, if maybe she was attracted to him but it flipped. But anyway, she talked about in this interview about how she initially disliked Penn Badgley. And what did she say? She turned the entire cast, tried to turn everybody against him until she later discovered that she liked him and that he was a nice guy. And then she's basically like, oh, sorry, guys. But it makes you wonder. It makes me assume that she probably from the very beginning was with this film was on a campaign to turn cast and crew against him. And that's why you see, I think, Zach, these weird situations where people like Isabel Ferrer and people like Jenny Slate are taking things that were totally innocuous and twisting them to make them bad. Like, oh, he said that was hot. Well, it was a sex scene. It's supposed to be erotic, right? Oh, he said this was hot, or he gave me the money for my apartment, but he emphasized that motherhood was like the woman's highest calling. Ew, about Jamie Heath. And I think that's the situation, is that she started turning these people against him early. And so they were so biased,
That then they start. Well, I mean, Isabella, that one was so crazy how you can see she groomed that girl, because we have the text message from Isabella where she's praising her experience working with Justin Baldoni. Next thing you know, she's having sleepovers with Blake Lively.
Yes.
She's wearing her clothes. She's going to dinner with her. She's taking her on trips. And then all of a sudden, her deposition, now, we hear her be like, well, yes, I did feel comfortable on set, but in retrospect, like, now looking back at things like those, they were kind of creepy. And it's like, you don't even realize the level of manipulation that she did to you to then have you really look back in retrospect and be like, oh, actually, no, I that was really creepy.
Right. I totally agree with you. And so I think that's been fascinating. Let me ask you, what are your impressions of the text between Taylor and Blake? Were they surprising to you in any way or not so much?
They were actually very surprising to me. I thought I didn't know what to expect from the text messages. I just knew there was this big talk of these text messages. And I think even Brian Friedman, before, like, when he was making a big fuss about the messages, I think he wasn't even fully aware of how much they were going to get in these messages. I think if anything, they were just trying to exploit the name Taylor Swift for the PR game. But then once you actually get the messages, you realize how complicit Taylor Swift was in all of this, dating back to the first meeting where she met Baldoni. And originally the narrative was that she walked in by accident. She wasn't supposed to be at this meeting. She only met Baldoni that one time. And then you read their messages and they're cackling as Taylor's on her way. And she's like, I need you to walk in on this meeting. And here's the script. And I just need you don't even need to read the script. I just need you to back me up. And people, because I see so many of the Swifties and they're just like, well, we've all sent stuff like this to our friends and it's not that bad. And she just believed Blake. And I was like, no, this was before Blake Lively had any real allegations to lodge against Justin Baldoni. This was way before she had any intimate scenes with him, way before, he made the sexy comment, all of that stuff. So this was solely to just have Taylor come in and troll Baldoni. And Taylor did it just for the sport of it. And the part that's really bad for Taylor Swift is she's built this feminist brand, right? This feminist brand on how her art was taken away from her, and we need to fight for the artists because Scooter Braun stole her masters from her, and all of this fuss, right, that she made. And even the word bitch that she was so hell-bent on with Kanye West, and like how we shouldn't use that term, and that term is degrading, and she wrote a whole essay about it. And now we see the hypocrisy in her behavior. She's been exposed in a big way.
She has, and the coarseness of the language of calling Baldoni a bitch, and people are surprised that I'm making an issue out of it. Obviously, like, I'd love to drop F-bombs and stuff. I got no problem with that in any classical sense. But again, her image and the image that her fans try to hold up in her defenders is someone who is like exceedingly well-mannered and sweet. She's a sweetheart. She doesn't have a mean bone in her body. And she's just been sort of inadvertently like a butterfly caught in a spider's web. She's just been caught up in Blake's manipulation or Baldoni's manipulation. And these texts show someone who has a very coarse side, an aggressive side, a manipulative side, a mean girl side. I mean, they absolutely do. And I was amazed or surprised, Zach, at some of the texts, the extent to which they show the degree of planning and manipulation and the kind of Machiavellianism. Like the one conversation where Taylor is saying to Blake, I can't believe that Baldoni hired me to do the song for this trailer because now that gives you so much more power since I'm basically one of your minions, is what she was saying, right?
That was crazy because that then shows you that Taylor Swift and Blake Lively were both fully aware that Blake Lively had the control on this set. She was in full control. Even her messages to Matt Damon, her email to Ben Affleck, all of those are even where she's talking about, I had to rewrite this script. I had to do everything from this bogus director. He's such a clown. Like it shows, she's telling everybody that she's in full control of this production.
She is, and you and others, and like for instance, Donna's done a great job of pointing this out, and Lauren has as well, and CJ. The fact that she wrote that PGA letter, the letter trying to get the producer's credit, and a big part of that letter was making a case for her being integrally in charge, or integrally involved, or in charge of all of these different aspects of filming, including human resource management, right?
Everything.
So for her to then. Yeah, so then for her to say, oh, well, I was just the victim of these larger powers, of these men. It's like, well, honey, that's an interesting perspective because you claimed in your PGA letter that you were a big boss babe.
Yeah. And that was the narrative that her lawyers kept putting out before we saw the PGA letter, was that he was the director. He was the one in charge. He was the studio head. He had a billionaire backing him. All of these things, right? And then we're seeing that's not the narrative with her communication with her famous friends. You have Anna Wintour messaging her and being like, oh my God, Blake, the movie was so good. After everything that you went through, I'm so glad that it worked out. You have all of the Sony executives that are going scorched earth, dragging her, saying that she, epic level stupid, terrorist, hacking her hair care brand, like the things that they were saying about her and being like, she's stupid that she would wouldn't she just let him go to the premiere? She did this to herself. Like that was a sentiment that they all were in agreement on. All of the Sony execs is that Blake Lively did this reputational damage to herself and she should have just played ball for the sake of the movie, right? They all were like, she should have just, thought about the bigger picture, which was the film and the success of the film rather than her own ego.
Right. And I'm so glad that we got those Sony texts or emails because they show what an objective perspective looks like on this, because you would expect actually the Sony executives to be in Blake's corner if it were true that you had this weird outsider company. If Wayfarer, if they were really the freak show, the cultish freak show that Blake Lively was describing them as being, then I don't think the Sony executives in their private communications would be attributing the blame to Blake Lively. They'd be saying, hell yeah, this weird cult show coming in here making a mockery of all of this. What a joke. They're such weirdos. But you didn't get anything like that. You got them calling her a terrorist. And that's a perfect description of what she did on this film. She went into this project where everyone around her was looking forward to it, was feeling hyper positive about the venture, even, yes, spiritual about it. You had all of these professionals who were going to pour their blood, sweat, and tears into it, so excited and thrilled to do so. And she just proceeded really quite systematically. If you talk about systemic harassment, systematically through various mechanisms available to her, bureaucratic and also personal, and leveraging her own fame and privilege, yes, and power to harass this man and to take over the film.
Yeah.
It's really incredible. Let me ask you a question? As someone who has followed the Scooter Braun Taylor Swift saga more closely than I have, at least, and my feeling was always that she was being a crybaby, and that whatever happened, it was the way that business often is, right? And that he wasn't some bad, evil Darth Vader coming in there and doing something abusive to her. What is your take on that? What was exactly she accusing Scooter Braun of and of doing?
Well, she accused Scooter Braun of a lot of things. And I don't think that Scooter Braun's relationship with Taylor was, I've been digging into it. I'm going to do a
Uh-huh.
full deep dive of it on the
Oh,
podcast
okay.
on Monday. So it looks like it's wild because I didn't even realize, like, she cried like victim that entire time. And I didn't even realize her father made over $15 million off of that sale. Okay. And she made this whole thing about how there was this ironclad NDA and she couldn't talk. She could only speak positively about Scooter Braun and she couldn't say anything negative about him. And the more you dig into it, the more I don't even think Taylor and Scooter had any sort of real relationship as to why she would even think to say anything. But she had the opportunity to buy her masters and she didn't. And the narrative that she put out in the public was so dishonest in the sense of, like, she made it seem like there was this power struggle and they took
Right.
advantage of her and that they stole her masters from her, when it's like, no, you were in negotiations, you had an opportunity to purchase them, and not only that, but you ended up purchasing them for what, over $300 million more than what the
Right.
original asking price was. Like,
Right.
it's crazy.
Well, I think what you're pointing at too is she has actually a history of being deceptive about some things, which is something that people don't attribute to her.
It's so crazy how manipulative these women are and how deceptive they've been to the public, and how many fans of theirs are just like diehard and like can't see past their bad behavior, out of just
Right.
sheer loyalty.
Right. Absolutely, it is true. Thank you so much, Zach, and we will see you on Monday then.
Yes.
Thanks.